following the footsteps in the snow new fallen that day. Footsteps that were going into the forest, and I knew where he was going. I knew he was headed for the great white pine.
Storytelling has always been a very important tradition in Scotland. The history of Scotland is told through stories, and they're used to pass on the culture and lessons from generation to generation. As such, Scotland celebrates this tradition by holding the Scottish International Storytelling Festival every year. This festival highlights the importance of stories and their place in Scotland and the world.
I think most people at one stage carried their culture in stories. The indigenous people of Ireland or Scotland have always been storytellers. I think it's because they are very connected to the land, and they would tell about the land not by describing it, but by stories about it or from it, you know? And to the Celtic people, everything was living. The rocks were living, the rivers were living, the mountains were living. And so that was a very, very close connection.
This ancient tradition of storytelling and the festival that celebrates it is supported and nurtured at the Scottish Storytelling Centre in Edinburgh.
There's never a person who goes there comes away with the sense of the friendliness, the hospitality, the warmth. And so in Scotland, the storytellers are very much a family, and they're also all willing to see, as my friend Duncan Williamson did, stories as a gift.
Twilight was coming rapidly down dark. He realised that he was quite right to be apprehensive, because suddenly out of the darkness came a figure dressed in black. They said, "Stand and deliver. Hand over your money." No. Here I said,
I came upon the Scottish Storytelling Centre here in Edinburgh. It's on the Royal Mile, and tourists can pass right by it, but you should go in. It's a purpose-built building dedicated to storytelling, and the centre supports storytellers across Scotland and also welcomes storytellers from around the world throughout the year.
Because Jackie wanted to be a pirate, so there was the pair of them. One was to be a skeleton and one was to be a pirate. And they couldn't get the 2 days quick enough. And they went back.
Stories carry weight with them, a responsibility to uphold the history of a people. So who is it that bears this burden? What does it mean to be a storyteller?
In the Gaelic and the Celtic tradition, a storyteller was a highly important person because the storyteller carried the history of his people, he carried the celebrations, he carried the tragedies, the disasters, and he was really the custodian of the rituals and the identity of the people. So he was very, very important and held in very high repute.
So storytelling is a very human art form, but there are a number of us who have revived that tradition of oral storytelling, preserving the stories of our culture and other cultures as a way of preserving our language and beliefs and values. We tell stories for entertainment, we tell stories to inspire one another, to educate each other, and we tell stories to connect ourselves with one another. I not only tell stories, but I invite people to share like a bit of their lives with me, which when I started doing it in Canada, in Ontario in particular, people were really surprised. That's an old tradition here in Scotland. It's called the Ceilidh.
And in these days, a ceilidh was simply a house visit in which the man of the house would tell the first story, or the woman of the house, and after that the tradition would be stories and songs from the guests until dawn. And, of course, in the Highlands, it would be accompanied by liberal libations of usquaby.
The tradition has a very strong presence in Scotland, but stories have an important place in Canada too.
I think there's a very rich storytelling tradition in Canada. The East Coast is famous for it, Newfoundland's famous, you know, but everywhere you go, I think it doesn't matter where you go, there's always going to be a storyteller. You just ask people in a village or a town, you know, hey, who's your storyteller? Oh, well, you got to meet, you know, you got to meet Aunt Maud, you know, or something like that, or you got to meet Jack, you know, or so-and-so. There are storytellers everywhere. We're all storytellers of one kind or another. And I just welcome all the different kinds of ways of telling stories. And I've just returned to Canada in the last 2 years to get to know my wee grandkids. But I'm glad to be back because all my friends are here. And I have a son and a grandson here as well. So this is home. It's like coming home. And it's really an honor to host tonight and to introduce so many fine storytellers to you and to be been part of the International Storytelling Festival.